Hello, I'm the Science and Operations Officer here at Charleston, South Carolina. My name is Steve Rowley, and I wanted to talk briefly about some of the new products that are available to help us deal with winter storms. As you know, winter storms in our neck of the woods are quite rare, but back on January 3rd, not long before we made this recording, we had a significant snow and ice storm, and I'm going to show you some of the products that were available to help you prepare for that storm. So if we come over to this frame here, we can see this is our main web page. There's our forecast area, National Weather Service office in Charleston. And then below that, there's a lot of icons here. We're going to click on the winter weather icon. And what comes up are probabilistic experimental snow accumulation graphics. So what we have here in the big graphic is the official National Weather Service forecast for snow accumulation. And then we've got a high-end amount. What are the models telling us is the highest amount of snow that we could expect to get? And what are the models telling us that the lowest amount of snow we can expect to get will be? Now, in all cases right now, we have 0 inches. And as we go farther down here, we actually have probabilities for given snow amounts. And all our probabilities are 0 as well. And most of the time, that's what these graphics are going to look like in Charleston, South Carolina, for Southeast South Carolina and Southeast Georgia. But on January 3rd, things were quite a bit different. I did want to show you one more thing. There's also a table here. If you prefer to look at tabular data, you prefer to look at text data, you can pick out your county and you can see what type of snowfall is expected and what the probabilities are for given snowfall thresholds. And you can see everything's 0 at this point. If you're, say, in Berkeley County, you can get a little more detail, pick out your closest town in Berkeley County, you can get those same numbers. And again, everything here is around 0, except the probability for no snowfall whatsoever, which is, of course, today is 100%. Now we'll go over to the other screen, and we'll take a look at some of the graphics that had non-zero probabilities and non-zero amounts. And these are the graphics that led up to the January 3rd snowstorm that was quite significant here across Southeast South Carolina, Southeast Georgia. So these are the forecasts. We started off on New Year's morning, early New Year's morning, with snowfall out near the coast. No snow accumulation away from the coast, but as we can see, as we get later in the day, New Year's Day, into early on January 2nd, we can see that those snowfall amounts are increasing with time. And we have 2 more forecasts here to show. And this was later in the afternoon, January 2nd, early in the morning on January 3rd. And we can see that the official National Weather Service forecast continue to change. What happens is we get new information, we get new models in with time, and we'll incorporate that information in updated forecasts. So we encourage you not only to check these graphics out, but to check them frequently because they do change and our forecasts change accordingly. So if we go back to the screen, now what we're going to look at is our low end accumulations. So we've got the middle of the road, the most likely official National Weather Service forecast. What's the least amount of snow we could expect to get during the January 3rd event? So early on New Year's Day, the models were telling us, well, you might not get any snow at all. And then later on, early on the January 2nd, we can see there's a little stripe of snow that starts to show out up here near the coast. So this is telling us even on the low end, if you're near the coast, you'd expect to get some snowfall. But interestingly, even as our official forecast amounts went up, the low end snowfall actually decreased for a lot of areas as we got to early in the morning on January 3rd. And that was the day that the storm actually occurred. So some interesting trends here on the low end. Then when we go to the high end amounts, these are the greatest amounts that we can normally expect during a given storm. And starting off on New Year's Day and working our way into early on the 2nd, we can see that our snowfall accumulations are high end, they're increasing, are expanding in coverage. And we go to the next, we can see that that trend continues all the way through to early on January 3rd, and even as late as late morning on January 3rd, when the freezing rain was actually changing to snow at this point, we can see that those high-end amounts have really increased. In fact, quite impressive, a wide swath of 5 to 9 inches of snow across the big part of the forecast area. Now, when we talk about high-end, we're talking about a reasonable worst-case scenario. So if you needed to prepare for the impacts of heavy snow on the roadways and so forth, this is probably what you should have been preparing for at this particular time. Now, an interesting contrast here is the difference between the high end and the low end. Early in the event, on New Year's morning, we are advertising a low end of no snow whatsoever to as much as an inch or two, with the highest amounts across the Charleston Tri-County area. When we go jump ahead a couple of days to the morning of January 3rd, when the event was actually unfolding, the high end amounts have really increased dramatically. The low end amounts remain pretty conservative. And I would expect in our area our low end amounts, the lowest snowfall totals we can expect to see, will often be quite low, less than an inch or 0. So what happened is, with time, the difference between the high end amounts and low end amounts actually increased rather than decreased. That's what we'd like to see ideally in a given forecast situation, but that was not the case here. So if you're looking at these graphics and following the progression of these graphics, these experimental graphics online, you may see some unusual trends. If you ever have any questions about this sort of thing, certainly feel free to call us here, the National Weather Service, and we can explain some of this for you. And then finally, this is what actually happened. Those of you that were here know that we got a big swath of 4 to 6 inches, locally as much as 7 inches across the South Carolina, coastal South Carolina areas, and another pocket here just south and southwest of Savannah, where a lot of places got 4 to 6 inches of snow as well. So this was a significant event. The snow lasted quite a while after this, probably our biggest event since 1989. So we encourage you for the remainder of this winter and in coming winters to check these graphics out. It's a lot of extra information that can help you plan for winter storms. And as always, we welcome your suggestions about these graphics, your comments, and we appreciate your time. Thank you very much.